thank you so much for chatting with us. Can you tell us why have you decided to run for chief of the FSIN?
So over the past 3 years as the third vice chief, I've done a lot of consultation with all of our nations, with a lot of leadership, with our elders, with our senators. And there's just a need to restore the vision of the Federation of Sovereign Indigenous Nation. And there's also a need to revitalize our traditional governance systems that sustained our community since time immemorial prior to European contact. And right now we're coming to such a critical age when it comes to climate change, pandemics, the meth epidemic, and, we have a lot of lateral violence and missing and murdered Indigenous peoples. It's time to take action, and we need to implement that change now and not tomorrow.
Aly, what are some of the things you'd like to see done differently at the FSIN?
Well, one of my main platforms for my running is transparency and accountability. I want to see transparent and accountable governance systems. And that means being able to share our financial audit, being able to share all of our information with all 74 nations and with the rights holders. And transparent and accountable governance are known to have good governance systems. And that's something that's traditional to who we are when it comes to responsibility. Because at the end of the day, yes, we have rights, but we also have a responsibility to the land, to each other, and to all living things.
You were the third vice chief at the FSIN for the last 3 years. Did you feel like you could accomplish more in the role of chief?
Yes, I think that to be in the role of chief, you're able to, manage your team in a way where we can communicate better, we can meet more, and we can make sure that we work together. And I think that's the point of the FSIN, is to have a unified front, because our voices are stronger together. And when we're able to communicate more, we're able to understand one another, and there's no more divide and conquer. And I know that's going to take time, but I think that's an achievable goal. And it's something that's going to only help benefit each of our nations, is by working together.
Aly, you already mentioned some of the wider issues there, but what do you see as some of the top issues for First Nations in Saskatchewan?
Well, definitely it's the uprise of gang violence, of the meth crisis, the fentanyl crisis, overdose, mental health issues, suicide epidemic. And we see a lot of this in Saskatchewan. We have the highest rates of over-incarceration. We have the highest rates of domestic violence in the entire country. But we also still need access to safe drinking water. And I think that there's a lot of initiatives out there where we can make sure that we are addressing these issues and implementing that change when it comes to housing, when it comes to infrastructure. And there are outside organizations and partnerships that can be made with one another that addresses this, where we don't always have to rely or depend on the government.
And finally, Aly, there has been an interim chief of the FSIN that was a woman, but a woman has never been elected to the position of chief. What does that say to you, and what would it mean if you were elected?
I think that we do definitely see a shift in women leadership and women chiefs across this country. Even our national chief, even in the United States right now, there could potentially be the first president as a woman. And I think that that shift is kind of going back to, as a lawyer and as a mother, it's very important that we govern ourselves through our hearts and not just our minds. And I think that that's something that we have as women, is that connection to Mother Earth and the land, and being able to, think things through and, give that advice where needed, as we once did, because we used to be matrilineal societies, and our women did always give that advice before we acted. And I think that that's really important to acknowledge and recognize, and especially in the era of the ongoing missing and murdered epidemic that we see.
Aly Bear, we'll have to leave it there. We thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much for having me.